2020 has been a massive year for games, but there's still a few months until the next generations of consoles launch. So I thought we'd look at some of the best games that are coming out to really wind up the current generation. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to Direct Gaming, hit the notification bell if you want to know exactly when I upload a new video. Follow me over on Twitter at Direct Gaming as well. But till then, let's get started. My top 5 games to finish up the current console generation. The original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was a cult classic with a loving fan base, but it was a game that never quite became a blockbuster. But the game's sequel looks set to take another dark and creative look into the seedy, vampiric world of darkness in contemporary Seattle. The role-playing game boasts multiple vampire clans to choose from to embark upon your journey and features a handful of factions to side with as the player character is thrust into a mystery in the city's dark underworld where rogue vampires have broken the masquerade and turned a bunch of humans into vampires in what's known as the Mass Embrace. A role-playing game in the truest sense of the term, Bloodlines 2 looks set to give the players many ways to partake in your actions with choices to make that will resonate throughout the game's story. Recent years have had far too few role-playing experiences where your choices actually matter, but Bloodlines 2 looks set to challenge this norm and give players a real role-playing experience. Players will have to choose how they feed and who they feed on, and how they will hold on to their humanity as a newly sired vampire, as they are pulled deeper and deeper into the vampiric underworld. Lead writer Brian Mitsoda returns after his work on the original game, and with a modern aesthetic and a gorgeous graphical style in Unreal Engine 4, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 looks to give RPG fans one last taste before the next generation begins. Bloodlines 2 is set to release on Xbox One, PS4 and PC later this year. Outriders first showed up at Square Enix's E3 conference last year and showed off a world filled with huge monsters, customizable characters and an alien landscape. And the more we've seen of this game, the more it looks set to be a huge amount of fun with deep customization and highly polished third-person combat. Developers People Can Fly, the team behind Bulletstorm, have outlined the game as a cooperative, class-based third-person shooter with a deep story, and personally, I'm thankful that it's not set in a persistent world like so many other shooters we currently have on the market. Outriders sounds much more like a dark and serious Borderlands than it does something akin to Destiny, and I'm all for it. When humans are exposed to a mysterious anomaly on an alien world, they are given supernatural powers. People Can Fly announced the in-game classes Pyromancer, Trickster, and Devastator, and the game's powers look set to be a whole lot of fun to play. Visually, the game takes cues from Mass Effect and Gears of War, among others, but the world looks truly unique and should be a whole lot of fun to explore when the game releases later in 2020. The masters of tactical RPGs, inXile have been working on Wasteland 3 since 2016 when it originally launched as a crowdfunding project on Fig, and achieved an impressive $3 million support from its fans. With the studio led by Brian Fargo, one of the industry's veterans in the genre, and now under the stewardship of Microsoft and part of Xbox Game Studios, although Wasteland 3 is releasing as a multi-platform title, Wasteland 3 has seen many graphical and budgetary improvements since its inception. The game takes place in the frozen wastes of Colorado in a tactical isometric role-playing experience that can be enjoyed in single player or cooperatively with a friend. The developers are boasting a branching story where your choices matter, and the player will be forced with moral challenges and have to make sacrifices which will change the game's world. Fully voiced and looking gorgeous, Wasteland 3 could be another big step towards the future success of Xbox Game Studios and could really put inXile in the spotlight outside of the die-hard role-playing fans that originally supported it on Fig 4 years ago. Wasteland 3 is set to release on August 28th on Xbox One, PS4, Mac and PC, and is coming out day and date on Game Pass for PC and console. Since its announcement at what could be Sony's final ever E3 press conference back in 2018, expectations have been incredibly high for Sucker Punch's take on the feudal Japanese era in the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima. And everything we've seen leading up to its release seemed to be pointing towards an immense game with gorgeous graphical design, great combat and stealth, and a captivating story. Players control Jin as he looks to avenge his fallen comrades after the Mongol invasion of the island of Tsushima and takes cues from historical events. A very serious tone has been set through the game's marketing push, and it seems as though Sucker Punch are holding nothing back when it comes to brutal samurai combat and hopefully some exciting duels like we saw in the game's original gameplay trailer at E3 all those years ago. The open world looks gorgeous and will apparently rely on players utilising landmarks and visual cues to navigate. With a lack of quest markers, it sounds like it will increase the immersion even more so. With The Last of Us 2 being delayed indefinitely and no launch titles announced so far for Sony for the PlayStation 5, Ghost of Tsushima is the last big PlayStation exclusive release on the horizon and is set to be another blockbuster when it releases in just a few months' time. Probably the biggest game release of the year, and a year full of huge game releases, Cyberpunk 2077 is the next long-awaited outing from the masters at CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk 2077 gives players free reign of Night City as a customizable protagonist called V in search for the key to immortality. Players will be able to customize every single part of their character with skills, implants, and visual aesthetic, and will have the breathtaking Keanu Reeves along for the ride as the eponymous Johnny Silverhand, a long-dead rocker boy and well-known character from the Cyberpunk pen and paper RPG. Silverhand will act as some form of digital ghost as you progress through the city's 5 districts: City Centre, Watson, Westbrook, Haywood, Santo Domingo, and the rundown Pacifica. With the opportunity to fluidly build your character out with focuses on stealth, net running, combat, and more, or a mix of any of these, Cyberpunk is an RPG that will truly set the player loose in a chaotic world to do as they see fit. The game's first-person perspective looks set to break tradition after the excellent Witcher series, but there is little doubt that the developers at CDPR will create anything less than the incredible Witcher 3 Wild Hunt when it comes to quest design, story, characters, dialogue, and branching story paths. Releasing on September 16th, just before the next generation drops, Cyberpunk 2077 could well be the swan song of the entire generation, and even looks set to be getting an upgrade on next-gen platforms at a later date to truly take advantage of the additional power and capabilities of the next-gen consoles. But that's my list. Let me know if there's any games that I've completely forgotten about. I did leave out a couple of games that have been delayed indefinitely, like The Last of Us 2 or Dying Light 2, things like that. They didn't really come into it, but they could still come out this year. And there are a bunch of other games that don't have release dates. Everything that's going on in the world has made it a bit more difficult for developers, clearly. So we may be seeing some of these games before or later. Either way, it's exciting times. I can't wait. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this new setup I've got here. Let me know if you enjoy this, what I can improve upon. Always happy to take some feedback on board. Until next time, peace.